Welcome again to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name is Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
I'm Nolan.
And this is episode 18 where we will share our experiences with the game Chips Challenge. But before that, I have a very important question to ask the both of you. What were you in high school?
Awesome.
So I know you're awesome. You've always been awesome, but
No, I
my
wasn't.
question is like, okay, so you've got your classic characterizations, right?
Jock.
So, jock, goth, nerd, stoners. But then you've got your subcategories: prep, band geeks, freaks, drama queens, posers, emo, punk, teachers' pets. Often confused with nerds, but we're entirely different. Thank you very much. So, where did you fall into? And come on, you can self-assess now. Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you? What would other people say you were?
I was the fairly-bearable, nerdy tryhard.
The fairly bearable, nerdy tryhard.
Like, I got along with most people. I wasn't, like, annoying or, like, that guy that nobody wanted to hang out with, you know. I had friends, but I did lots of things and was probably a little nerdier than most people and tried a little too hard.
Okay, I got mine. I was the quiet guy who thought he was cool because he didn't care. You know, like he seemed like he didn't care. That's who I was.
Yeah.
Nolan was
But I did have...
hipster, pre-hipsterism.
Yeah, pre-hipster. Possibly.
I say that about you all the time.
Yeah, I know, that's like what you always go to. That's not what I was thinking. But I had plenty of friends, though. It wasn't like people didn't like me because of it.
Yeah. For me, it was hard to. It's hard to pick one because I was in a band outside of school. I wasn't in the school band playing like trumpet or flute. I was in a band outside of school, and so I wasn't really involved in school much outside of educational purposes. So, but when I was a teacher's pet to some degree because that would get me the good grades. So I was some kind of mix between teacher's pet, prep, and poser. I don't know what that would end up being, but
awesome.
That's probably where I would find myself.
He was the kid that was kind of popular because he was in a band and then went home and did nerdy things on the computer and didn't tell anyone about them.
Everybody did that, I promise you.
That's kind of true, but like I was like people liked me, but I wasn't fully accepted into any group either. So I was kind of just on my own with my other band guys, and I don't know. It was a weird dynamic, but didn't really care because high school is not really my thing. But viewers, what were you? I know you can't tell us right now, but tweet us. We'd love to continue fostering this petty segregation on past high school. Let's continue it on into our adult life. Whether you are a punk, a goth, a drama queen, or somewhere in between, we love you and you are welcome here.
I'm gonna hate my kid if he's a jock.
You can't hate your kid.
I'm sorry, I am though.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? Fix him?
I'm gonna be like, you need to quit taking yourself so seriously, you idiot.
You're gonna be the dad that sits your son down, pulls out your belt, holds it in your hands like really tight, and says, "Son,
I swear."
You're gonna quit the football team and play Diablo.
Yeah. Don't you want to play some FPS with me?
Oh, you want your jock kid to be a nerd is what you want to do.
I mean, no, I just want him to be funny. I don't really care what he is.
As long as he's funny.
If he's not funny, he'll get on my nerves so quick.
Oh my goodness. Well, Chip McCallahan is your typical high school nerd, and we spent the entire week with this guy.
Yeah, we did.
Great.
So sit back, relax, and join us as we talk about our retro game of the week.
Grab a soda
challenge.
Grab a soda pop. Chips
challenge. I thought we were gonna all
challenge.
say it again together.
All right, let's try this. Sit back, grab a
soda pop,
relax, and join us as we talk about our retro game of the week.
Chips
challenge. Soda
We're
pop.
good at this.
Overview.
Chips Challenge is a 1989 title for the Atari Lynx. What is the Atari Lynx, you ask?
I don't know.
We don't know. Go find out. No, it's actually the world's first handheld electronic game with a color LCD.
Snazzy.
I'll knock that out of your hand, you nerd.
No, I didn't even know that they had. Hold on, you want your kid to be a nerd? Well, can we stop the segregation, please?
Okay.
You kind of started it.
This was a wonderful thing. Like it's a handheld game, and if you look at pictures of it, they look like fairly modern, although it wasn't that successful. But now handheld games are completely successful, and this is what the game was released on, although it was not popular until it came out on Windows later. And it's kind of just your top-down tile-based puzzle game.
That's kind of interesting to me. I didn't know that, but the whole week as we were playing it, I was familiar with it from like playing it on PC. And the whole week as we were playing it, I was like, this feels like a really, really early like cell phone game. Like most of what we play are like console games or like bigger, more elaborate, kinds of computer games.
Yeah.
And this was the first thing that almost felt like, and I guess for a reason, that it almost felt more equivalent to what somebody would play like while waiting at the dentist's office than something that they would play like for their main form of entertainment. So
I completely agree, and I think it would work extremely well as a phone game because look, here's just kind of a brief overview. The premise of the game is really simple. So the story is that Chip, who is your high school nerd, meets Melinda the Mental Marvel, and he wants to impress her. But to gain her affection, he must gain membership to the Bit Buster Club. Which that's the story of all of our high school life.
Mm-hmm.
But and so
I almost made it
so to get
into the club in high school.
Oh.
Not in the game.
Yeah, because that's a
a
lot more
lot.
difficult.
All of the hot girls at my high school were in the
Bitbusters?
Yeah, the Bitbusters.
And to impress them, you had to gain membership.
Yeah, but it was too hard.
Right.
Like a gang with a really elaborate
They have
nerd
jackets and
initiation.
stuff.
Because the only way to gain membership is to complete 148 increasingly difficult puzzles.
What? There's 148?
I thought it was 144.
Dude.
There's 148
Let's
via
go.
Atari Lynx, and then Windows, when they ported it there, added one more stage.
Wow.
Listen. What?
Dude,
Yeah,
have
you
you
could play this game for a long time, and I'm going to probably
Listen.
some of it.
have you seen Melinda?
Uh-huh.
The Mental Marvel? She's worth it.
I'm not that motivated, though.
But Melinda, dude.
Freak Melinda.
Yeah, that's
That's the goal.
what Chip wants to do.
So, like, basically, it's a puzzle game.
Yes, and the graphics are fairly ordinary. Nothing special about the graphics. Nothing remarkable. I believe there's only 2 audio tracks
Yeah, I like
played
it.
over and over and over.
Yeah, the audio really is a terrible part.
I had to turn it off.
I ended up turning it off
Yeah.
after I got enough of it to be like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, like, stop, okay?
I turned it off and like just played my own music if I needed it.
Yeah.
I kept the sound effects on though, because
But where it lacks in kind of like audio and graphics, and where it's even thin some on the story, it makes up for in how unbelievably creative the stage design is, which we
It
can
really
go
is.
ahead and talk about in most likely a lengthy section on gameplay.
Gameplay.
yeah, like it was the creativity of the stage design that sort of defined this game for me. Like no one game feels like the others,
Yeah.
and that's. Why don't we like sort of describe what you're doing? You're walking around sort of this grid, interacting with objects, and there are things you can't pass. There are traps, and there are monsters, and there are blocks that you can
Keys
push, and
and
there are
locked
buttons
doors.
that you can push, and locked doors. Yeah, all of those kinds of things that interact with each other.
Okay, but there's no action buttons. You only have your directionals.
It's just your D-pad. Yeah.
Move things
Up,
and
down,
collect things.
left, right. Your character fits on one tile, and you move to the other tiles. And so, just as you
Very
were saying,
straightforward.
yeah, very straightforward. But in that, the levels build upon one another, and so you've got various obstacles that begin coming your way. And you guys mentioned doors, and there's also monsters, and there's fire, and there's water, and there's ice, and there's magnets, and
Like directional floor. That stuff's
directional
cool.
floor. And so your goal in each of the stages, for the most part, now that changes and that's fun too, but kind of your primary goal is to obtain all the chips in that stage, which unlock the doors to the portal to escape
next stage,
to escape
yeah.
the stage. Okay, and so that sounds repetitive if it wasn't for the sheer creativity put into each and every stage.
Absolutely. Like, you don't ever know, like, what you're going to have to do. Sometimes you might be basically navigating a maze. Sometimes you might be racing against the clock. There's times that you have to, like, avoid monsters or solve a puzzle or move blocks in the correct way, or there's some trial and error stuff, which is kind of frustrating. There's all kinds of things.
And the only way to find out what that stage is to try the stage. It's not
Right,
like there's
jump in and go.
there's not a different color scheme. There's not any kind of hint. The title of the stage might give you some kind of a hint, which I think is kind of cool. But
It's very cool.
But outside of that, it's just you. It's not like a game where you can like zoom out and see the entirety of the stage, because that would help. You
No.
only see what's in your frame of view, and
Yeah, that's
so
what makes it so hard to me.
right. Because if you could zoom out, you could kind of plan and have strategy, but you only see what's around you, and so that makes it difficult. And like Kenny said, I mean, there's trial and error that comes into play.
It is, and not being a game that has like save states, so that would kind of eliminate the whole point. Part of the appeal, but part of the frustration also is if you go through this whole long level where you've solved like 9 mini puzzles in a row, and then like are about to beat the game and misstep into some fire or fail on one puzzle, you then have to go through that whole entire sequence completely again to get back to where you were.
Right.
Luckily, that's what adds a lot of like time to the game.
Luckily, there are passwords, like in a couple of games we've played, like Mega Man, where you can get back to that certain stage. But like Kenny said, if you like, these stages are long, so if you get to the end and push a block into the corner that you actually need, it's over and you have to start at that stage all over again.
There's also a really cool feature I've never seen in any other game, although I haven't played many puzzle games. But if you fail, I think probably 3 or so times on your stage, it might be a few more, then you actually get an option to skip to the next level. And so it's not binding you. Like, progress in this game is not determined by how many stages you've conquered only. I don't know if you guys knew that, and I didn't know it by getting to the end of the game, but when you get to the end of the game, it's not how many stages you beat, it's your score, and your score is based on how quickly you completed the levels you did complete. Obviously, that gets higher the more levels you complete.
I knew you could skip, but
Right.
I assumed that if you skipped, you would have to come back later and do it.
And you don't necessarily have to, which is a nice feature, because there are some stages, you know, all of our brains work differently, and so there are some stages that for Kenny possibly it would be somewhat impossible because his brain's just not connecting in that way, and then for Nolan, like, it might just be your brain might work in that way, and so I appreciate.
But they were all easy for you.
Right. For me, I mean, I beat the first 140 within, I don't know, 30 minutes, and then I just went to. No, they're for me. But
they really are.
To add on top of all this, we haven't mentioned, but there's a time limit on the majority of these stages.
Found that out the hard way.
The first time you realize that, I would imagine, is so frustrating.
It
like,
is.
You made progress and you feel like you're about to win, and then you just die. You're like, what just happened?
I've mentioned it, but I want us to talk about briefly, like, I love how diverse these stages are, because some are action oriented. So it's not about pushing this puzzle here or getting this puzzle here. It's like, hey, you've got to beat the clock and get to the exit.
Right.
And another one that I absolutely loved, like, I had been doing puzzle oriented, and then I show up in this stage where it's open, but there are like 200 chips to collect in like 220 seconds or something like that. And the whole stage is just chips. And so you just have to run and collect all these chips while avoiding the monsters. And so that's action oriented. It's not puzzle related, but I just love that kind of creativity, that it's still a puzzle game. But the stages are entirely different from the ones preceding it.
Absolutely. They were super creative.
That's what stood out to me too, is like how basic the controls were. You didn't feel that because they did make up for it in the different things that you're having to do in the stages. Whether it be like the tile you're standing on, like ice, well, you know, it can be like a sliding puzzle where you have to go through ice and find the right path and stuff like that. So the controls weren't like restricting, and I thought that was pretty smart of them to be able to have only working with those controls, the directions, to be able to implement all these different like obstacles and stuff like that.
Right. So there are various items that you can collect in some of the stages that help you get through the stage. What are some of those items?
The fire protection item lets you walk through fire.
Looks like kind of a shield to me.
Yeah.
I thought they were all shoes.
Oh,
you,
were
you
they?
might be right. No, I don't know. The shoe to walk on ice is definitely a shoe, because it
Got little
looks like a
spikes
shoe.
on it.
But the other ones look more like shields to me. But regardless, that's not what matters.
And we may even have played like slightly different graphical versions or
Sure.
something.
Sure. Okay, so far I've heard 2 items.
You've got similar things that let you go through water and that will let you walk on like the movement floor, but in any direction, like against it. It's kind of like a conveyor belt, how that floor works, but then you can walk against it.
And then you've got these blocks that are in a lot of the stages that can be pushed, but there's something unique about those blocks once they hit water.
Yeah, they turn into mud, and then you walk on them, and they turn into dry land. It's like magic.
Yeah, that took me a while to figure out. You have to walk on it to turn it into a tile.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On that first tutorial-
level.
Yeah, I was like, what? I'm stuck.
Right. And so your first, I don't know, 8 stages or so are instructional. And they've got helpful hints on each stage. They've got a question mark or something that you can walk over and you can get some instructions. But then after that, you're on your own. And the stages, like I've said, kind of get increasingly difficult. Now you might have 1 or 2 in there that you found easier than the previous one, but I think kind of the idea is that they're going to add mechanics and add difficulty and that as the game progresses. And so as you learn more, the game gets harder, which with any game that's a good gameplay function, and I just think
Absolutely.
that they did that really well in this game.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yes. Speaking of that, how far did you get?
I got almost. I think I got to like the mid, which when viewers hear there's like 140 levels, this will sound sad. But like I played a decent amount of this game, and I only got to level 35 or so, I think.
Yeah. I don't want to say mine.
Well, I know you got started playing this week later than sometimes you do.
Yeah,
Like
but still,
I played like
I've
Saturday
spent a lot of time.
directly after.
Well,
You know.
Kenny's further than me. Although I skipped 1 or 2 in there just because like I understood what was needed, I just could not give them what they needed.
Yeah.
There were 2 I skipped for similar reasons. One,
Okay, which ones?
I had completed it, like basically, and a decision I made at the very beginning, like that I couldn't have known was going to affect the later level that was long and elaborate, ended up making it so it was impossible for me to win, even though there was no way to like know that decision mattered, and it was like a long grind sort of a level, and that was kind of frustrating to me, and I was sort of like Dustin. I was like, I figured this level out, I beat it, I got all the chips, this is dumb. And so I skipped that one. And then there was one that was the same. It was going to just be so long. Like, it didn't even have a time limit on it. And that was a hint to me. And then I got really far a couple of different times and, like, misclicked a mouse that stepped in water. And I was like, I get it, but let's try something different.
Right. So, like, numerically, I think I stopped at stage 28. I believe 27 is called Go with the Flow, and I think that's just a stage where you've got all of these the moving magnetized floors.
That was a really fun stage.
Kind of. Yeah, I feel like it was
liked
just
it a lot.
random, and you had to just hold a direction and hope you got to a chip. And so after that stage, I didn't want to continue numerically, and so I just I pulled up the passwords online. You can find all the passwords, and tried out some of the other stages that sounded cool. And so I was able to play some stages in the closer up to the hundreds and even above that, and enjoy some of those as well.
Oh, nice.
But there are so many stages.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I know, that's
and that
ridiculous.
diversity stays somehow.
Yeah,
And
no,
I'm
that-
sure
that-
there's some overlap of like style. You
But
know, you
dude-
get like it's this type of puzzle or it's this type of puzzle.
But
But the diversity is crazy.
Right. I played one even this morning. It was somewhere higher up. I just put in a password that sounded cool. Now you see it. And it starts like you only have to collect like 6 chips, but as you're moving, those invisible walls pop up, the blocks that you can't go
Yeah.
past,
Uh-huh.
and so you're just kind of guessing to where you're going, but then there are these blue blocks that you try to head. The idea, now you see it, is that those blue blocks are the ones that you can walk through. So if you can get to those, then you can walk through those to be able to get to the other chips and avoid the invisible walls. So I don't know. They're just. I think there's so much diversity, and for the most part, they keep that all the way throughout, which makes this a game that you could play for a long, long, long time.
It's really impressive that they were able to do that. That's so many levels. Like,
Yeah,
they could have stopped at 30 or 40.
For-
That'd be fine, but jeez.
Absolutely. For as simple as this gameplay is, this is one I will probably go back and occasionally, if I have like 5 or 10 down minutes and want to work on something, I'll probably pop it open and play a little bit. Not as much as we played this week, but for a while.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of getting ahead of yourself because we're
I
about to
know.
we're about to move into the aged section. But before we do that, I wouldn't want to not give Nolan the opportunity to tell us what level he got to.
No, we got to age.
So what Nolan were you saying?
All right, so Kenny was all big on this about being purists and not looking up how to
Absolutely.
solve it, and
Like, it's
which
a
is
puzzle
fine.
game.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
that's the way to-
obviously I would have gotten
That's the way to do
farther
it.
if I would have spent more time on it, and so, but I got to level 10,
Yeah.
called Brush Fire, which is this stupid stage that's just fire pits and walls. So it's a maze, and it's like just a maze. There's no like, I'm looking at it right now, like after the fact, it doesn't look like there's anything in this level that you just find the exit, and I could not find the exit, and I gave up.
Yeah. There's one that was very difficult for me, and it took me multiple tries, and
Is
that
it
was
Blobdet?
no, I think it was the moat one.
Huh?
Number 18. I knew
Describe it.
what I had to do. Oh man,
It looks
it's
like
incredible.
a castle
Yeah,
in the corner.
so you start in the bottom right, and you have to walk. You don't do anything for a long time. You just kind of walk around the castle, seeing that it's surrounded by water, and then
Oh,
you
yeah.
go over to the far left, and then there is there's I think one of those buttons that produces blocks, and you have to move them over and create a bridge for yourself to get to the castle and escape. It's just a really brilliant idea,
That's
but
pretty-
I knew what to do. I just couldn't do it. So
I don't think that one generated blocks. I think you had a limited number of blocks.
yeah, that's probably true.
And that was the trick, because like you had to like push the blocks all the way around the moat. Spoiler alert, viewers, if you're playing. And then like get in at a certain place that was
Right.
really narrow. And it was sort of puzzles to even be able to push them that far, like movement based. It was
Well, yeah,
it was a cool level.
You can't get your block up against the wall because then you can't get behind it to push it.
Right.
So
I didn't know about this skip this stage feature. Where does it ask you or prompt you or something like that?
No.
yes,
How do you? I mean, when?
Oh, it never
After-
prompted me.
well, you're just really good. But after you lose like 3 or possibly 5 times on the same stage, like if you give it that amount of tries, for me, there was a dialogue thing that just popped up and said, I see you're having difficulty. Would you like to skip this stage?
Because
Interesting.
like, there's a bug on that stage also that just roams around, and so I kept dying to that. And when I would see that it's gonna hit me, I would hit the reset button. So
No,
maybe
You
maybe
just give up.
maybe it didn't ask me because I was restarting it
Maybe,
on
but
my own.
I don't know. Maybe.
Depending on what kind of bug it was, it probably wasn't as dangerous as you thought
I'm
it was.
sorry for not going farther. Because some of these
It's
stages,
okay.
I'm looking at the stages right now. That castle one looks really cool.
Yeah, no, that one's a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about how this game aged.
Aged.
I 101% think this game is still enjoyable.
Absolutely.
I think-
would
No.
agree.
I think that the game I think the game is absolutely still playable. I think the only thing that has aged is the graphics, but it's a puzzle game. Like no one's going to go play like freaking Sudoku wanting great graphics. People don't
Yeah.
play Minesweeper for the graphics. They play it for the gameplay.
Speak for yourself.
No, the graphics and the music like are pretty terrible, but yeah, the gameplay is so good to
But, like,
me that outweighs it.
People don't do puzzles for graphics. Like
No, not at all.
no one needs 3D blocks for their crossword puzzles in the morning.
Right.
Like no one's modding, what's that card game that people play on the computer?
Hearthstone?
No, the old school one.
Solitaire? Oh yeah. Okay.
No one's modding solitaire.
Yeah. Good point.
Like people don't play these old puzzle games like that game. They don't play these games for the graphics. And Chip's challenge is not about graphics. It's about gameplay. It has this intriguing gameplay that depending on your personality, you might play for an hour or two at a time, Kenny, or you might be kind of like more like myself or Nolan or someone else, and you might hop in and play a couple stages and call it a day and come back tomorrow. It's that kind of great game that has replayability and creativity and just a uniqueness that makes it very enjoyable still today. My opinion is that.
I knew this week that you were gonna like this more than Nolan was. Just knowing you guys in personality,
Well,
like
okay.
I had a sense.
Well, I usually love puzzle games. I mean, like this one. And for some reason, I'm not sure why, it wasn't completely enjoyable to me. And I know I should have gotten farther to rate it better and to give it a chance more, because it opens up after the first few stages. Maybe around level 20 or so, even a little before that probably. But for some reason, it just didn't click for me that the fun of it. It felt more of a chore because I would get to a certain point, mess up because your view is limited, which that's fine. That's what makes it a puzzle game. That's what makes that's the challenge and the fun of it. But I don't know. For me, it wasn't as enjoyable as I thought it would be because I love puzzle games.
I found my reaction changed depending on the level. Some of them I walked away with a huge smile on my face, like that was so much fun. And then some of them I was like, that was terrible. I'm glad I got through that so I could get to other things. So if you got kind of stuck on a few of those that were just frustrating, and especially not realizing you could skip and play ahead a little bit, I could see how that could kind of get you down.
Hold on. What you guys are saying is like your interaction with the game, which we should have talked about in gameplay. What we're talking about now is how the game aged. Like, do you think it's not about like did you personally enjoy the game or much or not? We can talk about that in summary.
I was getting to that.
Well, but like for me, I don't have to enjoy a game to say that it aged well or not. Like that that doesn't, for me, that doesn't necessarily have to do with how it aged.
Sure.
I mean, for me, it partly does. For me to judge it all the way, like I can respect some of the games we played and say, yeah, it aged okay. But like for me on this one, I don't know if it aged that well as a puzzle game, because I've seen similar puzzle games and I don't know which ones I'm talking about. But like I've just seen them, and they may not be this old, but it was more enjoyable, whether it was the music or the look, and neither of those things like super matter to me. I mean, they do, but like it wasn't going to prevent me from like really liking this game. That's not why I didn't like it, but for some reason for me, the fun just wasn't there, and I don't know if it aged that well.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with other puzzle games. I don't play puzzle games often, and so maybe I just have a weak comparison. Like I don't have other things to be able to place this up against. But for me, who doesn't play puzzle games much, but does enjoy that kind of challenge every once in a while, I once again say that I thought it was. Can you like where are you standing with this?
I'd agree. I think it aged well. I think if someone wants a kind of casual puzzle game, something similar in a feel to what they would pick up on their phone, as long as they understand that it is actually a true retro game, not like a today game in retro style, and therefore they can get over the fact that the music and the graphics are a little rough. I think the gameplay is strong enough that it stands the test of time.
Yeah. All right, let's summarize.
The final shell shock.
So once again, we have been using this section to respond to our dedicated, full of things to say viewers. And once again, we're done with that because you didn't send us anything.
So in summary, play games with us because we love it, and Dustin and I are better at video games than Nolan.
That's not true. Nolan is typically better at both of us than video games. It's these old like we have been playing
So
car
true.
soccer together.
Rocket League.
Yeah, Rocket League, and which is a funny game, guys.
It really is.
If you are not playing that game,
If you're not playing a retro game,
you
Play
need to
Rocket Power.
you need to play Rocket League, and download it, play it. But like that game, Kenny and I are just like driving around on the ceiling on accident while Nolan
Well,
is scoring
so
and
true.
defending.
Well, Kenny's
Nolan
using a
just
keyboard.
carries us.
Kenny is playing on a keyboard and mouse setup.
It's
Which the
true.
game explicitly tells you at the beginning, if you do not have a controller plugged in, that this
You're
game
gonna have a bad
is
time.
better experienced with a controller. And Kenny's like, nah, WASD, bro.
On
So
that person.
I don't even understand how that works. So, but
I've
Nolan,
rebound some things to make it better. but
I'm here to defend and say that in most gaming aspects, Nolan has historically been better than the both of us.
it's
uh,
true.
we
I think
could-
it depends. I think it depends almost specifically on genres.
I don't know,
think
man,
we
because
tend to all like the games that we do.
Yeah,
the best at.
but we could talk about League as well, and we could talk about you running into the jungle with like girls that should never be there, Kenny.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm creative.
Yeah.
Jungle Cogmaw is viable, guys. Give me a chance.
That's not true.
Oh, my-
Kenny, can you come gank? No.
so
That's not true.
this is typically a section where we interact with you. We want you to take advantage of it, or we might take your privileges away.
Yeah.
So like,
You're in trouble.
Pl-
we demand that you pay attention. to it.
play these games with us, and or if you've played it before, just send us in some commentary. Like you can tweet us, or you can send us an email, or you can do any of those things, and we'd love to interact with your commentary during this section. But also, let's kind of finish talking about Chip's challenge, and I guess Kenny, can you what was your favorite level? Can you think of that? Like, what was the name of it, and can you describe
yeah.
it briefly
Easy.
for our viewers?
Absolutely. My favorite level is South Pole, just in its simplicity. I can't describe it too well. It's one of those things that like it feels really, really elaborate, but it's actually quite simple, and it's kind of a cool just puzzle that you get fairly early on.
Is that ice? I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one of those glide across the ice, find the
Uh-huh.
right path. Yeah.
Interesting, because mine was called Iceberg, and I think that's stage number 21, which was, if I'm talking about the right one, is very similar to what you just described. So you've got this very obvious iceberg path that has bumpers and but that goes across water, and then you've got this block generator that you generate a block and you push it into the water, it turns into mud, you step on it, turns into, so that like fills in the spaces that are on that ice road. But I love the stages where the obvious thing to do is not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so, like, I did the obvious thing. I completed that ice bridge, but then it took me to the end where I couldn't get in because I had to get the 4 chips or 6 chips that were on the stage. And so, after spending a bit of time, I realized that I had to first make a different kind of bridge to a different ice road, which would take me to the chips. And then I had to come back to the beginning and then do the obvious thing to be able to get to the end. I just think that's kind of brilliant. I love when there's an obvious thing to do, and then if you do the opposite, that's what works.
Nolan liked the level 1 tutorial.
Back off, dude. I've got one. I've got a real one.
What is it?
I got
Okay,
out of the
what is it?
tutorial. All right, it's level 9. It's called Nuts and Bolts, and it's the only true like multi-layered puzzle stage that I got to play. But I did think it was pretty cool because I kept thinking the stage was about to be over, and it wasn't. There's a lot there, and it was
I think
one
I
of the
remember
stages
that
that,
stage.
yeah,
Is that
it's
the first one that you have to like? There's like the floors push you over, and then you got to push the blocks up through the water, and then slide through the little ice puzzle.
yes, it's got a little of
Mhm.
everything that you've learned so far. So I thought that was cool that was the first stage they throw at you. But I mean,
Oh,
I'm
it's a good
embarrassed
one.
to even say that one. So
No, it really is a good level.
Kenny, do you
Yeah.
give this game Chips Challenge your new Game Plus status?
I do hesitant. I do, just with an understanding of the kind of game that it is. For like a casual puzzle game that you play a little bit, I think it's worth picking up and replaying.
Nolan, do you give this game your new Game Plus status?
despite my lack of motivation and interest in the game, I am going to give it my New Game Plus approval because I feel like I need to give it a better chance, and I feel like anyone could play this and probably respect the stage design, and I'm going to play it some more.
I definitely give it my New Game Plus status. I don't know if you could tell from anything else that I've said, but I enjoyed this game. I think other people would enjoy this game, and I think it is something definitely worth playing again and again, and it will be a game that I casually come back to and enjoy every once in a while. I would like to, at some point in my life, have at least attempted all 148 plus 1 stages.
Yeah, Dustin really wants to be like, hey, Kenny, I beat Chip's challenge.
I really don't know if,
That's so many stages.
yeah, like,
It's a lot of gameplay.
here's the thing. Melinda, the mental marvel, might be adorable, but I'm already married and I did not have to beat 148 stages to gain my wife's affection. So
She'll be 100 years old. She'll be an old lady by the time you get to her.
that's true. And she won't even be worth it anymore. Chip,
No.
move on, bro.
Yeah.
It's that time again where we select a new game. It's Kenny's highlight of the week. He enjoys this more than anything
I
else. He
do.
starts getting giddy and starts talking in a higher voice, and then y'all both talk, and I'm unable to tell you what game we're playing. But
I'm actually pacing right now.
right now, I'm going to spin the Wheel of Death, and we're going to get our next game that we're going to play over the following 7 days. We are playing Guardian Heroes over the following
Yes.
days. I know nothing about this game.
I
You'll
looked it up
love it.
after someone suggested it, and it looks really cool.
It
So
sounds
I-
like Gauntlet Legends, is it?
No.
Well, I got the two confused. When we got Gauntlet Legends, I thought,
So did
wait a
I.
minute, that's that cool game I saw, and then I looked it up and it wasn't.
Right.
But this one looks pretty cool. It looks kind of like Street Fighter graphics, if I'm remembering correctly.
What if
Uh-huh.
I accidentally play Gauntlet Legends this week?
Listen, you already played.
You
too
would do
much
that
of
on purpose.
Game.
It's so good.
It was a good game.
All right, listen, viewers, play with us. Do it, or I'm gonna be mad.
Or else.
Or else.
And then as you do, send your thoughts to ngppodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on any of our social media sites, on our SoundCloud, or on our website, ngppodcast.com. And play with us. Send us your feedback. This is going to be a fun week. We've got some exciting news to share with you next week. So that's a teaser.
Tune in.
Uh-huh.
One of us...
Am I pregnant?
Possibly. And also one of us are being fired. So come next week.
So,
Don't-
Nolan, you better get farther than level 10.
Yeah, we don't even know who's getting.
Don't miss an episode because you'll miss what's happening and you'll miss the information that we're going to be sharing with you next week. We can't wait to hang out with you again. Join us next week for episode 19 of New Game Plus. And until then,
Happy
Chips.
challenge.
Challenge.